Test, 1, 2, 1, 2. What up, paintball world? This is Steven Reyes back at you again with another episode of Next Point Podcast. Where each episode, we try to dive deep into some aspect of competitive tournament paintball. So today, I wanted to discuss one of the most fundamental and important aspects of tournament paintball. It gets discussed a lot, but I don't always hear a lot of details about how to actually execute it. And that's communication. Everybody knows their team needs to communicate better. Almost every loss that a team has, they can go back to some form of communication that would have helped and maybe even turn the point for them. It's one of those things that no team can be fully happy with. It's got to be one of those things we are always refining and improving. But I don't see a lot of info helping players know how to communicate better. And that's something I wanted to do today. I wanted to go through some of the more important aspects of communication. I wanted to discuss prioritizing them. What communication is the most important and when? So first and foremost, let's talk about the most important piece of communication at the start of the point. Seems appropriate to start at the beginning of the point, where so much is going on that's going to decide how the rest of the point goes. So just like a point, let's start this podcast off on the right foot by discussing the most important first. So what is the most important piece of information off the break? I hear a lot of communication off the break, and I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. A lot of communications going on in that first 10 to 15 seconds, and the airwaves are clogged. Unnecessary information is getting shared amongst the team. It's a big problem I see in almost every team from the pros down, including my own. This is something me and my team have been working on for a long time. What is that most important piece of information off the break? The most important piece of information off the break are the widest players. The widest players on both sides. Why is that the most important information off the break? Well, let's discuss it a little bit. If you've listened to some of my past episodes, you know that I believe in prioritizing the flank and prioritizing the tapes at all times. It sets the boundary of the game. It lets us know what size box we're about to play in. It lets us know what dangers there are and how quickly a team can finish a point. The most important information off the break is where those wide players are. And that should be what our team is focusing on in that first 10 to 30 seconds. I see a lot of unnecessary information getting shared in that first 10 to 15 seconds. Do I need to know that there's a home player? Do I need to know that that interior can on the Dorito side is occupied? Most of the time we know that anyway. That's not relevant information most of the time. Most of the time, the most important is where is that front attacker? Did they pull up short? Did they make it into the snake off the break and could be actively crawling down to the 50 or beyond right away? Are they deep in the Doritos and about to wrap on interior positions and get easy kills that are about to turn the field quickly? These are the things we need to know in that first 15 seconds. Where is that wide Dorito player? And where is that snake player? I can speak from experience. When I'm sliding into that snake and I made it alive, I need to know one piece of information right away. The piece of information I need to know is who's in front of me. Did they go short and they're in that snake insert and I have the entire snake to myself? Or is this snake occupied with me? Is there a player I need to respect that could be on the tape at any time? Knowing where that wide player is as a snake player lets me know exactly how to play. As a snake player, I need to know all the traps, all the drop shots, all the different cuts, and the players and positions that can protect those cuts. That's the information I need to know. That's the stuff I need to study before the point starts. What I can't always know is who's in the snake with me. That's when I rely on those 2s and 3s, those guys behind me that were tall, had vision off the break, weren't running, or shooting lanes. If they can give me that vital piece of information, who is in front of me, it lets me know exactly what I can do. Sometimes there's a snake that, if you're in there unoccupied, you can go all the way down to their side of the field and end the point in 30 seconds. Those are opportunities a team cannot miss. And a lot of times those opportunities are really short-lived. And in the next 10 to 15 seconds after the breakout, that short player is going to get wide and they're going to match me. And now that opportunity I had in that first 10 or 15 seconds, it's gone. And it can't be regained without a lot of work. Furthermore, knowing where the wide players are, it lets the backline know how to play as well. For one, it lets them know how they have to position themselves in the bunker. If you're playing a Dorito insert can, that first can off the break, and there's nobody in the snake, you have a lot of freedom behind that bunker. You can step back, you can play the inside, you can really focus on your outside edge without having to worry about your back and pack getting lit up. But if that snake is occupied, you have to be extremely cautious about what you're exposing on the other side. You have to be very careful to not give away free kills. Furthermore, it helps you prioritize your zone coverages and lets you know how to organize. A lot of times this happens on the Dorito quite often. Once somebody's past that Dorito 1, Dorito 2, a lot of times the heads up play is kind of lost. Those gaps are blocked out from that interior Dorito can, or sometimes there's a Dorito 50 that's the most wide on the tape, blocking out the remaining portion of the tape on the Dorito side, making it so that heads up player can't really stop anybody moving forward. But if we can establish where that wide player is, quite often there's another cut or gap to be covered. That 3 can maybe switch and pick up that gap between the second Dorito and the third Dorito. Maybe that interior Dorito can or that home player can move upfield and pick up a trap or a gap that's going to stop that Dorito side progression. And the same for the snake side. Quite often, there's a lot of ability to move forward, especially with the way they're doing these layouts now. And establishing where the wide players are lets those backline players know what they need to do and where they need to go to stop those players from getting all the way down the field and turning the point quickly. We have to establish where the wide players are. Lets the attackers know how to play, lets the back players know how to position their body, and lets everyone know where they need to go and what they need to do to protect the flank, to protect the field from getting turned. Allows us to prioritize that zone coverage. And here's the most important part. We cannot let other communication get in the way of these two important pieces of information. This is a big mistake I see a lot of teams make. This is a mistake I make. We need to be keeping the lines and channels clear for these two vital pieces of information. We don't need to be hearing that there's a home player, or that there's a snake insert, or even that somebody might have moved up the field in the middle. That one's a close call, because sometimes that is very important. But the first two pieces of information that have to be established is where those wide players are. And until we can figure that out, virtually no other piece of communication is really worthy of being said. Now, how do you practice this? This is where it gets tough. For one, let's start at the beginning of the point. This is something I like to do when I'm calling plays. This is something I now ask my teammates when I'm at the box. Who are the two players responsible for giving that information on who the wide players are? Generally speaking, it is usually the twos on both sides. Sometimes it's the three, sometimes it's that home player, or other positions where you have to get to be able to see the cuts into the wide spots. But whoever it is and wherever it is, the whole team should be aware. Player A and player B are the only ones talking in that first 5 to 10 seconds. Until we establish who that wide player is, no one else should be talking. We have to keep the channels clear for those two players. This will really reduce the chaos in the point. It'll help those players know what their initial job is. Find those two wide players. It's the most important. It's essential. Everything else is secondary until we can establish where the wide players are. And that's something we need to practice. We have to have intention. Let's talk about who's going to be giving those calls. Let's execute it. And most importantly, those other players have to keep their mouth shut. Don't fill the lines with unnecessary information. Let those two pieces of information get across the entire field so everybody knows where the flanks are now. So let's say we've accomplished that piece of information, which is difficult quite often, and we're prioritizing it in our game plan and making it known who those players are, and they're giving that piece of information out. What's the next piece of information? This is what I call the color. This is where we color in the picture. Where are those remaining three bodies? Now we start using some deductive reasoning. Now we're adding more information. All the players know who the two wide players are. Now it's time for those other players who have position and visuals on other spots to fill in the picture. A lot of times it is those wide players who can see some of those interior positions that are not exposed to the 2 and the 3 off the break. It's a great opportunity now for those players who were establishing the wide players. It's time for them to stop talking. It's time for them to start listening to their ones. What information is the ones giving back to the 2s? Where are those interior positions? Where are those guns? And what are they doing? If we can establish these two first steps, we can have all the information we need to bring ourselves into the mid-game with success, with the appropriate information. Where are the wide players, and where's the remaining color? Where are those three remaining bodies? What are they doing? This is an opportunity for that quarterback position to shine. We've gotten the two wide players, and now our ones and twos have figured out where those remaining three bodies are and where the kills off the break are. This is a great opportunity for someone to put the picture together. My quarterbacks, I love for them to tell the field to shut up. They've acquired all the information, they've put it all together, and now they're ready to redistribute it to the entire field. Hey, listen up. It's Snake 1, God, Home, Dorito Can, and the Dorito 3. The 5 positions. If we can add where they're looking, even better. That is our baseline. That is what we're trying to accomplish in the first 30 seconds. And in that order, in that priority. Where are the 5 bodies and what are they doing? Now, what else do we need to add to this? Let's say it's a good day for communication. We established the wides. The 2s heard back from the 1s about where those interior positions are. And the 3 was able to take in all that information and redistribute it. So all 5 players know where all 5 bodies are. What other information is valuable here at this point in the game? A big piece of information to know at this point is where your bodies are. And there should be codes for it. On my team, we have codes for we made it deep in the snake or we made it into the snake alive. We have codes for we made a wide runner on the Dorito side. Lets us know what position we're in against those 5 players we've established. This is also where the kills off the break have to be established. Have we shot anybody? This is where the kill count gets involved. Are we 55, 54, 45, 34? What's the situation? Where have we gotten the kills from? Where are the remaining bodies? Another important code in this portion of the game is if the snake is clear and if the outside Dorito is clear. This kind of goes hand in hand with establishing the wides, but it's important to note that every team should have a call for this. Every team should have a call for the snake side is clear. And that information should be paired up with who is the next widest player. So let's say we have a call like Seattle, and Seattle means no one is in the snake. As a snake player, I would love to hear that call and continue to hear that call as long as it's active and as long as it's accurate. I'd like to hear that information paired with who's the next widest player. So a lot of times people use calls like ice, or they might just pair up the position with the clear snake call. So you might hear something like Seattle God, Seattle God, meaning the snake is clear and the next person, the widest, ready to fill, would be the God. This is crucial information for the attacker. All of a sudden you get to that snake 50 alive and you're deciding what to do next. Knowing where that widest player is currently is crucial information because it allows you to rap on them. It allows you to figure out if maybe you can ignore them and get under pain or block them out and continue forward for free kills. Excellent information to be giving your ones and to give them the information they need to be successful. That's our opening game. Where the wide players are, where the remaining 3 bodies, the kill count, and the people next to the widest player. So now we've gotten that information. Again, it's been a good day. We figured out the wide players, we figured out the remaining bodies, we have the kill count. Now we get into the mid game. One of the biggest pieces of information I'm always trying to see when I'm coaching or when I'm on the field is a code for who has the ball. Who's in position to win the game? Or put differently, where is the advantage on the field? All that information we discussed as far as the opening is leading to this question. Where is the advantage on the field? It allows the whole team to play appropriately. There should be a code for it. One of my teams that I used to coach for, they used a code called Brady, as in Tom Brady, because Tom Brady's the GOAT, and he has the ball, and he's in position to win the game. So one of the biggest pieces of information I want to hear from my 2s and 3s is that Brady call. Letting the snake player know, hey, you are the Brady. You are the Brady. Letting them know that they're in position to win the game. Now, they still have to use their brain. They have to know the traps. They have to know their shots, of course. But it lets them know how to prioritize their game. That they are the win condition. Additionally, if we can establish where that Brady is, it lets the rest of the team know what to do too. Let's say there's no snake and your snake player is alive. And you let them know that they're the Brady. That lets you know what you need to be doing. Do you need to be on that zone to make sure that nobody fills and occupies the snake and takes away that advantage we have? Maybe 2 guns need to be on that zone just to make sure that this player gets to take full advantage of their situation. Maybe it means you elicit a 3rd player to hold the zone so that 2 can get behind them and help support them. Additionally, it lets the other side of the field know what to do. A lot of times, unfortunately, what happens, a team establishes that the win condition's on the snake, and the Dorito player decides this is a great opportunity to go make a big move, get eliminated, and open up an opportunity for the opponents on the opposite side of the field. Quite often, if the Brady is on the snake side, and you're on the Dorito side, your priority might just be to stay alive. Don't do anything stupid. Make sure that the opponents are not able to swing the field and try to end the point on the other side of the field before your opportunity in the snake gets to finish what it wants to do. Figuring out the Brady, figuring out who's got the ball, can let the entire team know what they need to do. That's why it's one of the biggest pieces of information I'm looking to hear from my teams when I'm coaching. Who are the wide players and who is the Brady? Who has the ball? Who's in position to win the game? And sometimes it's not even a player. Sometimes it's just a whole side of the field. Teams I've coached and the team I play for, sometimes we'll make the call as far as a whole side where we'll say, hey, snake side's Brady. Snake side's Brady. Maybe you don't know which snake player particularly is the Brady, but you know for sure that that side is where we have our advantage. And sometimes that's good enough information just to let that side know that it's time to press their advantage and let their 2-man communication work towards that goal. Establishing who has the ball is the most important information in the mid-game. Now we have to add a little more context here. If you've listened to some of my other episodes, you know one of the biggest pieces of information to be considering at all times, honestly, the most important, is the score, the clock, and the bodies. It tells you how to play. Are we up 2, down 2, up 3, down 1? Is there 10 minutes in the game? 5 minutes? 3 minutes? How many bodies are there? Are we up bodies? Are we up bodies big? Are we down bodies big? If we can add those 3 pieces of information together, it can literally tell you and all your teammates what they need to be doing. And this is where the prioritization of communication in the mid-game can change. Let's say we're up 3 points with 5 minutes to go. And let's say we do have an advantage on a side. That might not be an appropriate time to set a Brady. That might be a time to establish zone control. This is one of those places in the road where it starts to split based on that score, clock, and bodies. The prioritization of the big game communication might move away from who has the ball and move towards who has control of every zone. Up 3 points, up a body, that team has to come to you. You might have an advantage in the snake, but is it worth taking advantage of it when we're in that situation? Perhaps that snake player is better off setting a cross-field zone and denying progress up the Dorito side. Maybe that 2 doesn't need to fill out behind the 1 and is better off just rolling their gun and making the wide player defeat their zone. Again, that score, clock, and bodies allows us to prioritize the communication in the mid-game. It lets us know what is the most important thing to be doing at that time. So if we can add those 2 things together in the mid-game, we can find ourselves doing the right thing more often. Now let's say the situation is we need to win a point. Whether the game is, just starting, it's still in flux, time isn't a factor yet, or we're just even. And we're just playing paintball, trying to put points on the board. We've established the wide players, we've established the 3 remaining bodies, and we've even set a Brady. This is where the 2-man communication really comes in handy and really starts to shine. The crossfield communication lets us know where all the bodies are and all the important spots. But once the Brady gets established, this is where the 2-man communication has to come through. And this is something I see ones get very frustrated about, and really they should be looking inward. So many times while I'm coaching, or even myself while I'm playing, I'm frustrated that I didn't get the right communication from my 2. But what communication was I giving to my 2? That's an important question. Let's say I'm in the snake, and they've established that I'm the Brady. Great. I should know the field well enough to know where I need to go and what I need to do. Now suddenly I get to a position and there's players stopping me from progressing forward. Very typical. A good team knows where they need to go to stop progress on that side. That's where it's super important for me as the 1 to relay back to my 2s and 3s what I need from them for me to be successful. And here's the big question I ask my 1s when I'm coaching all the time, and I ask myself all the time when I was not able to find successful attack. That question is, who is stopping me? What is stopping me from moving forward? What I see quite often is that when something stops the one from moving forward, their first instinct is to go inside and look for easy inside kills and give up the initiative on the tape. Give up the initiative and not take advantage of their own width on the field. Not turning the field and turning the game. When something's stopping me from progressing, when I'm the Brady and the team's expecting me to press my advantage, the big piece of information I need to tell my two is who's stopping me, what's stopping me. And from there, that lets the two know what to do. Hey, maybe there's a good bounce shot on that position. Maybe I can fill to the corner as the two and put pressure back on that position. Maybe there's a nice float shot from the three that can just put some paint on the outside of an interior can, just enough to just put a little pressure and make them have to tuck in just a little bit, just enough so that I can put a shot in and take the next prop. Maybe I need that two to close distance with me and get behind me so we can double team them and make that position have to fight two bodies. And once we tuck them in, I'm right back to being the Brady. That's the big piece of information between the two-man communication. Who's the problem? What's the issue? And how can that two help relieve the issue? And let us get back to what we need to be doing, winning the game. So let's talk about a few more codes that are important in that mid-game. A very important code that I see not get used enough. Every team should have a code to let the whole field know, relax, do not make any moves, we are in control, we are up. Let's assess the bodies and assess the zones. This is really important because a lot of times ones can get jumpy. Sometimes they want to do too much. Sometimes the twos want to gunfight too much. Sometimes the threes are too quick to want to try to fill out. There should be a code to let the entire team know, hey, relax. We're in all the good positions. The team is smothered right now. Let's force them to break our zones. This is an excellent code to make the other team towel. Toweling can really break a team and their motivation to win. Nothing's more frustrating than having your team towel on you while you're still alive. And this can be one of those moments where you can really get inside your opponent's head. You have the position, you have the development, you have control of the zones, maybe you're up a point. Sometimes the best thing you can do is relax, not give the opponent an opportunity to catch back up, and just smother them in paint. And make that opposing coach towel with 3 or 4 bodies on the field. And totally demoralize your opponents. This is an extremely important code that every team should have to control the temperature of their attack. Control the pace of the point. It can also help you control the clock. One of those essential elements in prioritizing what to be doing, that score clock bodies. Yeah, we know we can use the score against our opponents. We know we can use the bodies, but we can also use the clock against them as well. And having that code ready to tell the team to relax, control zones, keep an eye on everybody, and smother them is a great way to control the clock and a great way to find a win in a tough set. Another thing to consider is that the Brady can switch sides. This is something else that's really, really important. I said earlier that the Brady, or whoever's got the ball, can tell the entire rest of the team how to play. But it gets a little complicated sometimes. I mentioned earlier that sometimes when the Brady is on the snake side, the best thing you can do as that Dorito attacker is stay alive and not give that opponent the opportunity to swing the field. But sometimes the roles reverse. And think about it, it makes sense. Let's say the Brady is the Dorito attacker and they got the ball and they've made it all the way to the Dorito 50. But they're seen and the move gets noticed by the opponents. What happens most of the time? Most of the time, guns get disorganized. Zones get disorganized. The chaos factor of having a player forward on one side, a lot of times players switch that aren't supposed to switch. Even some of the most elite teams, you'll see suddenly there's a Dorito 50 player and 3 guns are on that opponent. Now, from your side of the field, when your player's in that Dorito 50, that's something you need to notice. That's something you need to notice if you're that attacker. Hey, I've gotten here, I've taken a lot of ground, I have a lot of attention on me. I feel like half the team is shooting at me right now. Am I really the Brady anymore? Am I the one who has the ball? This is something you should be thinking about as we get further down the field. Quite often, as we've progressed to that 50 and beyond, the Brady actually switches to the other side of the field. The opportunity now is on the side of the field that the guns are not prioritized on. And this is really important for the 2s, 3s, and the 1s. Anybody can notice this. The 1s can notice because of the pressure they have. The 2s can notice because they see the streams and they see their 1 hiding, trying to stay alive in a tough spot. The 3s can notice. A lot of times, the Brady swings to the other side of the field, where the guns are not organized, where the priority isn't on. And that's really important because a team who can swing the Brady, can swing the win condition from side to side, can make it hell on the opponents, can make it very difficult to try to come back. All of a sudden, you're worried about the Dorito 50, you're tucked in hard trying to survive from that interior prop, and before you know it, your back's getting lit up because now the snake took advantage. You're making it so that those interior positions have to really think hard about which way they're going to look. You're causing confusion. You're making those 2s and 3s doubt where they should be prioritizing. And in the next point, that doubt's going to continue. This is a team that can bite you on any side of the field at any time. That's a difficult team to keep wrangled. Huge and important part of the game is being able to move that Brady call, move that win condition from side to side. And let's not forget, sometimes the Brady is in the middle. That free body. After you've taken those wide positions and those interior props have to tuck in and protect themselves from wide players, quite often the gap ends up being in the middle. And this is what our team needs to prioritize a lot of communication towards. Figuring out where the advantage is on all 3 sides of the field. So now it's time to talk about the end game. The things that happen as the game breaks down. So let's talk about one of my favorite calls and one of the most important codes that our team has to have. That is a code for the entire field to let them know, hey, this point is degrading quickly. The opponents are in position to win. We do not have any reasonable way of controlling them. And now it's time to go do something. A team I used to work with used to use the code CeeLo, also known as street craps, little dice game people do on the streets. And the reason they use that code is because this is the point in the game where we have to gamble. This is the point in the game where our coach is at the buzzer looking to see if we're going to do anything to turn the point before they put that concession in. This call should be given to the entire field whenever the situation is degrading quickly and we're going to lose, to let them know, hey, whatever move you were thinking about doing, go do it. Any opportunity you have left, go take it. This is an opportunity where you can't do anything wrong as long as we don't get a penalty. This is our opportunity to make that surprising rundown, to do that highway move, to do that big up the middle move that could maybe swing the tides. And this is really important because if you listen to my episode talking about how to win, the recipe for winning, you know that one of the key elements to winning a tournament, you have to steal back some points that you're not supposed to win. And a call like CeeLo is one of the most important calls you can use to get some of those points back. The coach is about to towel it anyway. Why not make that big move? Why not go for the opportunity to swing the game? This is where you can't do anything wrong except get a penalty. This is where every move becomes right because shortly the point's going to be over anyway. This is a call we have to be careful with, though. This really can only come when the game is really degrading and devolving. When our loss in the point is truly imminent. That's when it's time to roll the dice. That's when it's time to take advantage of any opportunities we have left, no matter where we are in the field. We have to be looking for opportunities to steal back points that we're not supposed to win. And that CeeLo call can be one of the best tools in our tool belt for accomplishing that. A similar call that I think every team should have is a call to turn the field. This is similar to CeeLo in a sense that the game is devolving and the opponents have a huge advantage. And in the long term, we should lose this point. The difference is, in this scenario, we still have the semblance of an advantage ourselves. So here's a situation to illustrate the point. Our opponents are in the snake. We've lost our snake player, and that opponent snake player wrapped and shot the 2. So now we've lost both players on our snake side, and they're actively in the snake. But we have a 3, and we still have 2 Dorito players alive. This is where we have to change our orientation to the field. We have to turn the field and play it sideways almost. This is one of those opportunities where that 3 realizes, I might be able to slow this snake down and play some cuts and gaps to slow their attack, but on the long term, I'm not going to be able to stop them. This is a great opportunity to use a call to tell your Dorito side, hey, we're losing on this side. I need you to turn the field over there before we lose this point. This is where that 2-man operation comes in handy. What opportunities do those 2 players have on the opposing side of the field to turn the game? To turn it before our weakness ends the point. And there's a time factor involved. Usually that 3 is just trying to buy time. That player's doing their best to just keep that snake player slowed down just enough where their 2 players on the D side might have an opportunity to turn the field. This one has to be executed quickly because the point's devolving. But it's not a true CeeLo. We still have the semblance of an advantage. We still have a side to attack. This is an essential call to, again, steal some points that we're not supposed to win. This should be reversed, this logic. This is discussed sometimes as the pimple theory, but the idea being that a good team, realizing that they're getting pushed in hard on a side, will try to push the other side to relieve the pressure. Now we have to be very cautious of that on the opposite side of it too, that other teams will try to turn the field on us when we have a strong advantage on the opposite side of the field. So this is one of those things we have to use both sides of this logic. 1, we have to be looking to turn the field while we still have opportunity. But 2, to recognize that zone control is extremely important on the opposite side of the field when we're winning on a particular side. So let's keep this situation in mind on both sides. Both when we have an opportunity to win and we need to turn the field, but also recognize that when we're flying down the snake side about to win the game, that quite often a smart team is going to look to push the opposite side. This is where we have to have good organization of our zones. Let's appreciate this principle on both sides of the coin. One of the last and most important pieces of communication towards the end game is the on me, on you communication. Now I see this get prioritized at the wrong points of games. Unfortunately, I think this call gets misused in the early portion of the game and ends up flooding the lines of communication and causing way more chaos. When we're playing 5-on-5 paintball, this call is useful, but not highly prioritized. Everybody's getting shot at. There's 5 players on the opposing side of the field. Knowing that that home is on you is only useful in the sense that I can elicit help to move forward. But if I don't have an advantage or a way to end the game on that side, do I really need to be yelling to my entire team that the god is shooting at me in the Snake 2? Or that the home is shooting at me in the Snake 2? It's useful within a small margin. But when these calls really shine is towards the end game. When those opponents are reduced down to 3 or 2 players, where the process of elimination becomes extremely important. When the opponents only have so many guns to point in so many directions, that's when this call gets extremely important. Knowing where those 2 or 3 last bodies are looking lets you know where the hole is on the field, where the opportunities are. Quite often, those bodies are worried about the wide players, and the open channel is for the 2s and 3s to get directly behind those players and be able to shoot some hoppers or barrels. Or maybe it's the opening for that 3 to find that nice lane and nice opening up the gut, while those remaining 3 players are worried about the edges. That's when the on me, on you communication becomes very important. Because simply put, the opponents only have so many guns. They can only be looking in so many places. Where this becomes absolutely essential, and speaking from experience, recently losing some important 2v1s in crucial points in the tournament, this really becomes absolutely essential when it gets reduced down to 2 or 1 opponents. This communication has to be constant. On me, on you, on me. When the paint's on me, my opponent's moving. When the paint's on my opponent, I'm moving. Back and forth, constant, does not stop until we've gained angle and gained pressure and eliminate that last player. Smothering them, not giving them an opportunity to shoot us easy. Waiting for him to look at my opponent, for me to take a prop and gain the element of surprise. Gain a little more angle and make it so there's no right decision for those remaining players. The on me, on you communication is one of the last and most important pieces of communication to end the point, end the game, and ensure victory. So that one was a little bit of a longer one, but my goal was to really give you some tactical information to really help break down the communication and to really help us prioritize it, focusing it on one portion at a time, knowing what the important pieces of information are and when, and helping us, most importantly, try to avoid some of that unnecessary communication that just floods the lines and adds to the chaos, and help us bring a little more intelligence to an otherwise chaotic situation. So again, thank you for joining me on another episode of Next Point Podcast. Like I said, I really hope this one can help you and your team prioritize one of the most important and fundamental aspects of our game, the communication. If you're enjoying the content, feel free to like, subscribe, share in all the usual podcast places. Keep an eye out for some video footage. I'll be doing some reviews on my YouTube channel from the last tournament in preparation for Texas. And until the next time, on to the next point.